Hi there, good evening, I'm Aston Parsons and this is Aston's Expressway, and tonight is the first ever video on this channel about retro classic cars, and this is something I'll be doing a lot of features on. There can be all sorts of various mini-series, review of my own classic 98 Ford Mondeo. You may have heard about that in some of my mukbang videos. Or this may be the first time you've clicked on this channel. So, what's this all about? Well, like I said, this is a pilot series, so I'm going to talk about a series of retro classic cars from the 80s and 90s. Cars I've owned. Some of them I've like today's car. I've owned two of, and had quite a lot of experience with. And yeah, like I say, it's just a pilot series really. I'm doing it because I've not seen it done before, where someone, and it's not a long episode, it should be about 10-12 minutes. We'll just run over a couple of minutes about the car. Won't get into its quirks and features. We'll leave that to Doug Demuro and the lights. I won't sadly be road testing one today, but who knows, in the future some kind person might let me do so. So let's get into this, shall we? As you can tell by the thumbnail, today's retro classic car I highly recommend, and is without doubt a complete classic, is the BMW 5 Series E34. So let's have a look at her. Right, well, first of all, let's look at what became before the E34, which was, of course, the E28, also known as the Shark-Nosed BMW. Now, I've owned one of these. I'm not going to go on too much about its predecessor. The E34, the replacement, which we're talking about tonight, is a far different car and a far better car than the Shark-Nosed was. I'm not going to knock the Shark-Nosed E28. The trouble with it is it had a beautiful looking car, great 6-pot engines. It had the 525 eater, the economy petrol one that BMW put in the UK, where instead of putting their diesels in, they didn't think diesel was right for the UK till a certain point. But it's a good car, good looking, very comfortable. It's like being in the lounge. There's loads of interior space in the Shark-Nosed, but it has a live link rear axle and its technology goes back to the 70s. So although it was sold up until the mid to late 80s, it's not the most dynamic of BMWs. But anyway, that's its predecessor. If you're still wondering what the E34 is, it is of course this one, which I think is one of the most legendary BMWs ever made. As were most from the 80s and 90s. Again, it's not the point of this mini-series for me to have a go at BMW today. I could have a lot to say about it. To be honest, I've hated the brand since the turn of the century, but it was both my family's and my own personal #1 favourite brand during the 80s and the 90s. And I owned two of these. A 520 petrol in white, like the one you can see, same wheels. And that was, like I said, that was an 88, and I also owned, and this was only a few years ago, a 525 turbo diesel, and according to the registration documents in early 96, it looks like it was one of the last to come off the production line, but I sadly don't have that now. That was in like Ferrari red, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So here we have the E34. It was made between 86 and 90, about 95, 96. It was made in Germany, in South Africa, and only just discovered today it's also made in Thailand, although I can't find out much about that. So that's just what Wiki says. So again, I'm just flipping through a few looks here. Of course, later, I think it was 91 in the UK, the Touring came out, which was quite popular and very collectible today. Some say more so than a sedan, but as you'll get used to me, I love a sedan. I love the styling of a sedan. I'm not really a family guy, I'm not putting dogs in the back, so I tend to pick saloons over estates. There were multiple engine options for the E34. I'm just flicking through a few now on Wiki. Now, sizes range. I mean, there was the 1.84 pot, but as I'll always say about any 80s or 90s BMW, it's not a proper BMW unless it's got the magic 6-cylinder in it, the 6-pot. And you could get those in 2 litre, 2.5, was it 3.2? I think there's another variant as well, but I mean, check it out on Wiki if you want to see all the different versions. But of course, later in its life, there was also the yummy V8 version, both a 3 litre and I think it's almost a 4 litre. But we'll come to an example of that soon. So there was plenty of power. I mean, like I said, my white one I had was a 520, and it was automatic as well. And I just straight the pants off it. And in a BMW, which is a driver's car, I mean, this is one of the best mid-sized handling sedans I have ever driven from its era. I mean, it's so well weighted, it's so responsive. It's not like today's modern electric power steering. You feel the car, it tells you when it's gonna, when it's gonna go, what it's doing. It's one of the most communicative vehicles I have ever driven in my entire life, and that's one of several reasons why I love them deeply. There's an Alpina variant. Again, it's where, although the M5 goes back to the E28 before, this is where it started. I mean, if you ask me what is the only M5 to have, it's one of these. But, right, so I've covered engines. Right, well, if you're about my age, or late 30s to 40s, you will recognise this car. You will recognise this car. I mean, they were a fodder of the middle classes and middle executive managers for so long, during their times. It's unbelievable. But, so why was it? What was so good at them as being a mid-size, I call it sporting sedan? Well, as I mentioned, the engines back then for BMW were legendary, utterly legendary, with reliability, performance, throughout the rev range. But it wasn't just that made BMW's magic then. And the 5 Series defined a beautiful, beautifully styled car. It's just a gorgeous car in all angles. The alloys you get, the swage line of the body, archetypal BMW front end, and of course the money shop, the back end. I do like a chunky back end on a car, and it's perfect. But it's not. I love the 7 Series as well of the times, but this one's, it's not as small as the 3, obviously. And I've owned a couple of E30s myself. I think the 5 Series is a better handling version, because it's not so snappy. I find the 3 a bit heavy for its size sometimes, and it's a bit. You can bring them out of a slide, but once they go past a certain point, you're just a passenger. I've had a right crash in an E3320 I had once. But no, they are. It's hard to find anyone that really thinks they're an ugly car. Good interior as well. Fantastic ergonomics. Buttons where you want. No creaks in your dashboards, even several years old. I can really vouch for that. They are a lovely built car. The only thing with the interior I noticed, I think that most of my examples have leather here, but as with the E28, the cloth seats wear very, very easily. So that's for some reason. But reliability is generally good. Like I mentioned, handling is fantastic. Ergonomics, build quality, it's all there. But there is a downside. All modern classic cars, retro cars, have an Achilles heel. And the Achilles heel in this one is, well, literally an Achilles heel. Just always when you're looking at one of these, you can have an absolutely perfect body shell with no rust. It can even look all smart down here. And then you get underneath it and have a bit of a poke around, as you always should when buying a classic car. And I bought one of these, like I say, for £800 back in 2014. It was a low mileage turbo diesel in red. It had a good MOT history. But the MOT it had on it, looking at it when I went to do an MOT like 9 months later, it was a bit dodgy. Yeah, I took what I thought was a perfect bodied car, put it on a ramp to my honest, trusted MOT guy, and it was just like a piece of Gruyere cheese under the back seats. And that's where they go. It's the back quarters of these. As with the 3 Series, it's not particularly like a Mercedes E-Class from its time where you'll see the rust on the front or on the back wings. No. It's hidden. So that is why so many of them disappeared and why they are less seen these days. It is the Achilles heel. I mean, we'll come to an example in a moment where you have to be cautionary. So I'm just checking where I am in all this. Right, okay, so I've talked a bit about the rust. So let's just keep on that for a minute, because again, when you're buying a classic car, you need to be very careful. I mean, we have another 5 now. By the way, this 525 I'm showing you here, sadly I can't show you anything on Total Car Check because, and it probably annoys other classic car watchers like me, you can't see the number plate, so I can't give you a Total Car Check report on that. I can do on this one. It's another 525, but with the M-Tech equipment, and this is in the colour that I have my 525 turbo diesel. It's got the proper alloys. Again, you've got a leather interior. And yeah, to be honest, the back seats, they're good, they're comfortable. There's not a tons of legroom in the 5, but if it's just for you and, you know, the kids in the back, you know, and you're not transporting loads of suitcases everywhere, it's an everyday classic. It's an everyday classic. I mean, it's an everyday classic you've got a garage really to preserve, but it is an everyday classic. But, so, here we have one here. Initially, you know, it's a very, very good looking car. But let's look a bit deeper, and again, if we look down the side, well, this has kind of got the kit on the side, but sometimes if ever you see hand like matte painted stuff here, just be very careful, because the seller may be trying to cover up what is the Achilles heel of this car, so you have been warned. And by the way, before I go any further, guys, I have to say I'm showing you real life classic 5 Series on eBay, but in any review on any cars I do, I am just showing you what is there. I am not vouching or recommending any particular vehicles. You have to, of course, DYOR, do your own research. But the objective is just to show you what's out there, what's on the market, what to look out for. But if you do visit them and you do have a story to tell about any of these cars on here, please put some comments below, and I'll happily interact with you and talk about that. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. So we've got this 525e. I'm just trying to remind myself the mileage on this one. Not a lot of details in here. Why am I saying I've got it on Total Car Check? So I'll just bring that up. Right, 525 Sport in Auto. We currently have half a year's MOT on it, so that's always good. I don't like buying any second-hand car at any low price with at least 6 months on the clock, unless you're doing a special project rebuild. I like to drive away. I don't like to trailer away, even if it's as a second car. But unless, like I say, you're doing a complete reconstruction job. Right, so here we are. First of all, to be concerned here, and remember this one is advertised, I think, for about 7,700. The previous one, by the way, was, I think this one was about 5,000. Right, again, I've looked for some under 5k ones on eBay today, but there's nothing I'd like to even put my name to, really. Things been off the road for you and all sorts. I mean, can you get an example for a couple of grand that's drivable? Yes, you can, but I think you want to spend at least 5k to get a decent one of these if you want it to last you a few years. And I think it's worth it. I think, you know, even we'll get to some in a minute, 10, 12, 15 grand. But it's a lot of car for your money. And the thing is, it's an everyday car. You know, it's a saloon. You know, you can take 5 people in it. But you can throw it around the country, bends to all you like, and as long as it's dry and there's no water or ice, yeah, you'll just enjoy yourself. And the things they're like glue. They're like glue. I say in the dry. I mean, obviously, if you own one of these as a daily driver, and you need to go to work every day, just check the temperature every morning. You know, I mean, if the temperature's -1, 2, just get the bus or a taxi, because, as you know from watching any news articles from the last 30 years, they always feature on the beamers when the ice comes out, don't they, sliding sideways down the road. And I'm sure modern BMWs are different, but with the old girls, they don't like ice, and they don't like it when it's been dry and, you know, just a bit of water splattered on the ground as well. No, be careful. But anyway, in the dry, I challenge you to find a better rear-wheel drive, mid-sized, exec, not super-sized, not small-sized sedan. Find me a better rear-wheel drive one type of car. Anyway, going on, that was £6,000. This one here is 7,700. That was quite a low mileage one. I think that was about 90 or something. Yep, 96. This is a higher mileage one, and although the engines were reliable and trustworthy, over 150,000, if they've not been perfectly maintained, they have a habit for blowing oil leaks and stuff like that. And my 520, I fracked the hell out of it. Never checked the oil. I was in a stressful job at the time, just whooshed around in it, and I think I crashed the conrod through the side of the casing, but it was about 150k. It only cost me, the white one cost me 500 quid, so it was kind of disposable, and I had great fun. Just coming back to something I said earlier, finish about my diesel one was a manual, and it's a fantastic gearbox, as are all manual gearboxes. But what I will say about automatic BMWs is, if you get the chance for the right car, but it's not manual, it's auto, they're great autos. They're not like a Ford Auto from a Mondeo or something that doesn't know what gear it wants to be in. These babies know what gear they need to be in. You kick the pedal down, they'll kick down for you. You'll get up there, ease off. BMW made some of the best automatic transmissions I've experienced in cars of that genre, so don't worry about that. Anyway, back to this red one. Sorry, just bear with me a second. So yeah, that's it. Back to this red one, which has best part of 200k miles on it. Now, right, total car check, and I'm not sponsored by them. I'm just the people I use. I'm sure you've got many MOT checkers you can use, but aren't they great? It tells you, the MOT history tells you so much about a car. It's untrue. And when I look at an MOT history, I don't instantly panic at fails. I look at what it's actually failed on. I mean, you've got a couple of passes there with some moderate mileage. And then we've got a fail, which was, that was only last year. Let's just see. Okay, 2 passes. Okay, fair enough. Right, okay. Now, this is what I'm talking about. And remember, this is a perfect looking car externally. But refusals back in 21, offside front vehicle structure corroded. Again, more corrosion. And, I mean, things like brake pipes corroding and suspension arm ball joints, they don't alarm me. When I'm looking at an MOT history on a classic, I'm looking for 3 things majorly to tell me. I mean, things that are disposable, wipers, bulbs, or, you can't get fussed up about that, it's an old car. But, again, we've got seatbelt anxious, corrosion. This is what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not knocking this advert, by the way. All these issues could have been done by the seller, and I'm not knocking the seller at all. But it's not really talked about, is it, in the description. And this is the Achilles heel. And I don't want anyone to blow a couple of grand and think they got great looking, hey, this car looks great, and then you put it on the ramps and, bloody hell. What a piece of Swiss cheese. So again, we are shown. I mean, there you go. There's some nice passings. 10 years ago, straight through. Nothing too worrying there, but again, fuel pipes, brake pipes, they don't worry me too much. And even though you'll see the ball just covers and things like that, that doesn't worry me. But it is corrosion that is what you want to look for. And not corrosion of brake pipes, corrosion of the body. And some of this is giving me the indication that this one, hopefully they've done the work, but and done the welding, because that's what I sold on my 525 diesel. Once I discovered it was Swiss cheese underneath, and I did what anyone should do when they can't do a job themselves, which beyond economic repair. I honestly put it on eBay as a spares a repair, and a welder came on board. It wasn't a car trade, he was a welder, but he wanted one, he understood, and I showed him the problems. And it's not on the road now, but I think he kept it on road, welded up, kept it on road for a couple of years. But, so yeah, you've got to be careful with these. But this is a slightly nicer one. There is no MOT history on this one, I'm afraid, because it's a Japanese import. But, as I'm sure you're aware with Japanese imports, they don't use salt on the road, as many clever countries don't, because that's where all this corrosion comes from. It's not so much the cars, it's a bloody salt that we just chunk on our roads when it gets anywhere near freezing. But, sorry, I don't like grit. I have a classic Ford, so grit, and, you know, when the grit is running past my car outside, I'm like, ooh! Anyway, this is a lovely colour. I'm not seeing this colour so much in Europe. It's almost like a grey silver. But this is an outstanding example. It's right-hand drive because it's Japanese, but they have it in kilometres, so it's about 40,000 miles. But I don't see how you wouldn't stand out a classic car showing that. I mean, it's so different to, you know, a lot of this dross today. I mean, the 5s, ever since the one after the E34, the E39, although it's in that 90s I like, and the E39 was a modern, well, a size down 7 series to look at. Didn't do anything for me emotionally to look at. I've never driven one, but hopefully I will one day. Right, so just staying around 10 grand, sorry, 9 grand. This is a 540, one owner. I think this one has about 90k on it. It's 102,000 miles. Let's have a little look behind the, well, first of all, let's just show you some pictures. There were options on the, I can't zoom on these because he's done it as a phone job. But there are various options on the sports specs with the body kits and the alloys. But so this clearly isn't as pristine as the one I've just shown. But let's look at it. So 540 auto, it's about 280 brake as I remember. So you're not going to be lacking any power. Let's have a look. Yep, pass some advisories on tyres. Again, you don't go on about stuff like that. Had a refusal there on an engine thing, but obviously that's been fixed to be pass now. Near side fuel pipe, front oil. Now, those other things I do look for on MOT failures. Not only underbody corrosion, I also look for oil leaks and coolant leaks, because I have brought cars with minor leaks. You can get away with it, get round it, sometimes just a seal or something. But be careful. If something's leaking, well, you know, if you park on the road, it's going to upset your neighbours for a start. But so again, there's some light damage being talked about here, but it's not talking about corrosion. Having the 285 brake horse, it's probably been pushed in a few corners, so things like your bushes and your pins, excuse me, they're going to need looking at and fixing. So, yeah, that looks pretty okay to me. Brake disc worn. I'm not seeing any corrosion. Again, it looks less pristine outside, does it, than that red one we saw with the body kit. But I've got front engine mounting deteriorated. Okay, something to watch then. Okay. So that's a potential one I look at. Again, I'm not giving a full, rubber stamp to any of these cars. If you're interested, please go and have a look at them yourselves. Now, this is more I've just put this on. I haven't bothered getting the car check-up or anything, but this is a final one. Yeah. Under 15 grand can buy you a lot of E34 5 series, but one or two will be at these absolute. I mean, I think 34 is a bit too much for this. I think I know why it is. It's about 90k, but it's a 5 in it. Hang on, just the M5. It's a 540, but it is the estate. I think it's got some modifications as well. I mean, it's cool. It's cool AF. So it's a rare one. It's a left hooker. That's normally a bit of a turn off for me. But that aside, yeah. I mean, this one you can get the dogs and the shopping in the back as well. So, the wife's not going to complain if you buy this one. Just don't tell her you spent 34 grand on it, really. So, guys, that is the end of this presentation. And yes, I've gone on for much longer than I wanted to, but I wanted to give a full round perspective to a bit what this feature is about. Like I say, it's a retro classic popular car review. I've got loads of cars I've driven. I've owned as many cars, corporate or personally, since I've had a driving licence 30 odd years. So I've got plenty of popular cars, some of which I've had a couple of as well, that I can show you. So thank you very much. It's lovely to have you here. Like I say, I'm Aston Parsons. This is Aston's Expressway for motoring, mukbang and madness. There's all sorts of elements to this channel. But this is just a pilot, so please leave me your opinions and what you think of this format, whether you like it or not, or whether you think it's a bag of shite. And, I'll do a couple of them, I won't bother. But please, just be honest. I welcome any comments. If you are commenting, just be nice to other people. And, yes, so, Aston Parsons, over and out, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.